Hello, hello, everybody.
What the fuck is happening? Have we started?
We started. We have begun. I don't want to wear my shirt, so I'm just gonna have it on my head.
That's a look, dude. I'm not even gonna say it.
Good afternoon, rising miners.
Good afternoon.
Rising miners, is that what we call it?
No, we're not minors. We're adults.
Oh, I didn't mean
the show is not intended for minors.
I didn't mean like
it's intended
that.
for real motherfuckers.
What? Hey Google, turn on the stream backdrop.
Oh, now you're gonna be playing with your robots.
No, that's it. That's the only stream thing I wanted to do.
All right,
that's it. That's it. I'm not gonna play with anything. I can't play with my new vacuum cleaner because it's plugged in to charge.
So RAM drink of choice over here for me anyway.
Yep, I got the other RAM drink of choice, the coffee plus energy Monster. Not affiliated.
Monster. Such a commoner.
What?
You monsters.
What? That's like the drink of choice for so many construction workers. That's a RAM drink. That's a RAM drink. There's a joke that there's like if there's a huge line at the gas station inside, it's because it's lunchtime at whatever construction project is going on.
No, that's true.
Yep.
I don't know. Like that's why I don't like human time, because with my ADHD, I think it's a nightmare when you're like, hey, you know what's a good idea? Let's all do the same thing at the same time. Let's all take lunch at the same time in Gridlock City. Let's all go to the movies on Friday night. Let's all go out to eat. Like, no, dude. I mean, unless you want to be social, like, let's go out and see people.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit in a line like, you know, like I'd rather do it on a Tuesday and walk right in, you know. I don't want to wait around. So I skip my lunch a lot of times, despite my beefy frame, and or I'll take it later, or I'll just go somewhere that's easy.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just get a Slim Jim and a soda. And
I like the easy lunches too. I'm just like.
What you got going on over there? You playing Minecraft?
Yeah.
Guy looks like he's digging into something other than Rise in Mind.
No, I was just doing that drop frames thing again. I'm trying something to fix it. But it's fine. My favorite quick lunch is 2 McChickens.
2 McChickens. You've been going to the have you tried out the McDonald's value $5 meal?
Oh yeah, I actually like it when they do that. That's not bad. I've been trying to avoid bread though, so
it's okay because it's like $5. Not we're endorsing this, and not that anyone should be going there really, but if you need a quick $5 bite to eat, you can get like a big double, 4 nuggets. I think you can get the chicken, but then you get a little tiny child fry and soda. But you know, honestly, I feel that's more appropriate.
Yeah.
Than having a big drum of soda. You know, just having a regular soda, a little bit of fries, a substantial sandwich, a couple nuggets, man. It's pretty good. Whoa, Pinocchio. This guy's performing. Do you want to do a show? Do you need to do a show? Show me your Pinocchio. Let's coming this December for Christmas viewing. You know him as a host of Rise in Mind, but now you've never seen Matt Crafton as Unicorn Pinocchio Boy.
Unicorn Pinocchio Boy. No, I just
all these strings. What's the song? Pull me by my string.
That's creepy sounding.
You know, someone was talking about like genres of adult content, and you know, there's so much stuff now. Somebody brought up this idea. This isn't my original.
Yeah.
Intriguing. Marionette porn.
Explain that for me while I go turn up the fan.
So like everybody's like on strings.
Oh.
Now it's a little weird and I can't quite figure like the people, like it could be all faked, like they're being controlled by something. Now, I think you could create some kind of armature with today's tech that simulates a gigantic set of hands, and you can strap on some VR gloves, and then you could be like the conductor, the director of sorts of these people, and then create a scene with these giant things. But I mean, I don't know, man.
Well,
there's some ways to push the technology, because all technology gets funded by that industry.
Yeah, almost
but
all of it.
I shouldn't talk about that. That's gonna be outlawed coming up here soon, apparently. Yeah, right. Everyone's got these big ideas. I'm digging down in the ground. That's my big idea.
There's a lot of
chaos out there today.
There's a lot of
chaos.
There's a lot of fake news going around there, but you know it's not fake news? When an app reports outages due to increased traffic at the Republican National Convention, the app Grindr had such an uptick in usage that it crashed.
Right on, dude.
And it was only in Milwaukee, and it was only in that region of Milwaukee that the app crashed. I'm not gonna say that this is causation equals or correlation equals causation, but man, that's peculiar that it was only during the Republican National Convention that the app Grindr crashed.
Man, don't call Republicans gay.
I'm not calling them gay. I'm just stating the fact that the app Grindr crashed in Milwaukee during the Republican National Convention. I didn't state that they were gay.
He's just checking the boxes.
I just feel like,
dude, I don't need news these days to like live in the carnage, man. Oh man, like just today alone. I mean, I was fighting the solar guys. I got them to get off my land. The solar farm will come. They've cleared so much woods down there, but they're gonna have their own way that is directly through my property. So hey, big win there. I kept them from ripping all the trees around my property, so that I have to look at them. So that was a win. And my family's driveway doesn't turned into a commercial industrial road. So that's a win too.
So the solar farm is that close to you guys then?
Dude, next time you come up, it's a different world. I look down the road, the trail that I grew up walking down, and it's just all bright now. The woods are gone. It's just like it's all cleared.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that 20 acres or so, and they're gonna keep doing it.
That power is gonna be sold too. It's to create an export, right?
You want to hear the good thing?
What?
So our government here was like, hey, we're going to endorse this solar. We want solar. These fucking things should be in Arizona where, there's barren. So they're ripping all the woods down, deforesting the shit out of this place. I've got so much stuff living here. I feel like Dr. Goddamn Doolittle. I got one of everything. Like I'm going to be building an ark soon and sailing the fuck out of here. But yeah, so they have incentivized these solar companies to come to Maine, and they're not even, it's not even for Maine. Like this company's based in Vermont, and so it's not for us, and they just leave all the trash here. But the problem is there's these programs, and it's great for them, the solar people, and I don't know how it incentivizes the government, but I do know Central Maine Power, it's basically a monopoly up here, is installing poles, and then the taxes in the area will go up as, so we're paying for it and we don't get any of the benefits, and it's going to be right beside my house. So it's annoying, but hey, that's just the least amount of worries, because I just found out I got a call that trailer burned down on my road here.
Yeah, I just
got
saw
the call
that.
in the middle of the day, and I thought everything I had was gone, and the arcade was gone, and the cats were gone. But it was my neighbors. Not that it's any better for them, but yeah, their place apparently burned down in the middle of the night, and nobody knew about it. Like
they weren't there.
All our neighbors we're baffled. Like they didn't come blazing in with ambulances, fire trucks, because I mean it went under the radar. It was a real weird situation.
No one saw the fire happening and didn't call anyone.
No, the thing is, trailers burned down in like a second, so like it probably just came and went. The weird thing was it burned just in the middle, and there's just like these little bookends. It's sad. I feel bad for these people. I hope I know they have family in the area.
That is sad.
Yeah, it's not good. But anyways, and then I just found out my buddy, he's an acquaintance, one of my buddies though, his good friend was like here on a visa from Canada, and he started a business here, and does a lot of work like I used to for the ADA downtown. He's getting deported, dude. His visa ran out. Basically, just gonna grab him and throw him back in Canada. And I think his wife's American, and they just started a business. And I was like, oh man, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's
And I just found that out a minute ago.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's literally texting me now. So yeah, she's Canadian too, but she's here because of business. Yeah.
Oh, can't he get on a work visa then?
Well, he said, I mean, I'm just getting this all now. It's like he overstayed his visa and essentially is being deported back to Canada for a while.
Oh, until he
That's
gets
the most simplified way that they can talk about it right now.
That's until he gets it sorted then.
He's going to talk to an immigration lawyer, but it's like, man, that's tough because he just started a business recently. They came down here, I guess, for the business. I don't know their life, how they what went on with it. Just it's too bad that he has to go. Bye. You got to go now. Excuse me. So yeah, just shit like, you know, house get burned down, people get thrown out of the country. I'm swiping dirt over syringes by my mural this morning because there's like the Iron Man decathlon. I don't want people to see all the drug use in our little communities.
They're just sweeping it into your mural?
Oh yeah, there's always syringes and shit. It's I mean, it's crazy, dude. Like I told my neighbor, because she was just really, I talked to a neighbor for like an hour out front here. She just pulled by and was asking about the neighbor stuff, and we just talked openly about things, but I'm like, yeah, it feels like a different world, and I don't want to be a disillusioned old man, be like, oh, times are changing, but it's like, they fucking did, dude. A lot's changed, man, and I'm just trying to process the reality, and people saying, oh, it's the internet. No, it's not the internet.
It was always
the internet's a dissociative tool.
It's funny.
Times at best these days.
Times are both changing and not at the same time. I think just the tools and where we get the information is changing. The speed at which we get information is changing. I think that's a big factor as well. I just feel like I've just seen enough. I think there were technically political cartoons of like people being like, "Oh, the kids are always on their phones these days," and then like people in their 20s and the 50s were their noses were stuck in a newspaper instead. We're still ignoring each other. We're just using something different to ignore each other.
Yeah, there's definitely always been ways to escape. I think the difference would be when you read a book, the book didn't talk back to you and wasn't like aligned to a human, but you could do that with the cell phone. I mean, you could do that with the telephone. I spent a lot of time talking on the phone, and that was not always because I didn't want to live life. It's because my friend moved to a different town or something, or you didn't get to see people all the time. Ooh. I didn't have the internet. When I wanted to talk to my friend Doug, I used to have to get on the phone, brother.
Yeah.
But I don't think the technology, like, I'm not going to be the old man, like, the tech changes. I mean, it does change things, but it's like, I don't think because we have the information more accessible and we're getting it faster that it's the reason. I think that's a cop-out. Yeah. Like, when it's like, no, times are changing, man. Like, we're not a really close family here in this country. That's what breaks my heart every day. We're We don't even want to sit at the fucking table with each other and have that kind of family. Like I'm not even going. Like, that guy's gonna be there. Fuck him. And it's like that's a damn shame.
That is a damn shame. That's a.
I don't.
That's an unnecessary shaming.
Like we gotta. I think if this country needs to remember the word united, because it doesn't exist for me, and I don't see it as a reality.
We're the divided states of America.
Yeah, no, and that's corny to say, but we're way too divided when neighbors have opposing signs, you know, in their yard with a big middle finger every time the other guy.
Oh yeah.
Where's the common courtesy? I got the middle finger from like a 70-something-year-old, I think.
Why?
Hanging out her car. I don't know, cause I pulled out at the same time her, and then I was going to do that dick move where you have to turn in another spot. But we were turning out at the same time, and I had to go there, and I made sure I was like, oh shit, this is that move. I'm gonna try to drive. But it didn't matter. I always try to be respectful and courteous. Sometimes we all make a weird mistake or something like that. But there's no way I'm just gonna be like, fuck you, stranger. Like,
yeah,
have some dignity. You're
like
70 years old and you're giving people the finger still. Where are you at?
I tend to just, like, if someone's does something in traffic that bothers me, I tend to just go like, oh, they're having a bad day, or like something's going on in their head and they weren't paying attention. You know, just, there could be so many different reasons.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I always said the thing like, you don't know, some guy could have caught his wife fucking his brother 15 minutes ago and he's driving out of that situation. Like, where's his head? In my case, I was working on the sun. If you can't tell by my complexion these days, you know, I work on the sun quite a bit. And yeah, you know, you get dead tired. Everyone's in a different state. It doesn't excuse anything, but it's just like, we're all in kind of different conditions. Some people just woke up and they're going to work third shift. Get out of my way, dude. And I'm like, I'm ready to unwind and pass out.
Sun does drain you, though. There's something about it. It does make you sleepy.
Sure does, man.
So eepy from the sun.
Look at that, dude. Look at that. Look at all that sun.
Damn.
I gotta buzz the side. This is me looking.
Damn, boy.
I need to.
Damn,
You're
boy.
all old. Take off my hat when I come inside.
So, are you ready for a shift in subject matter, sir?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what's been going on with my insane day, and week's been fine. And
hey,
you know, I had to negotiate with a solar farm on my birthday, but Em and I had a good weekend with her birthday. And
good.
Did you have a pretty good week? I know you've been doing shows up the wazoo.
This was my last one for a long time. I don't know if I'm gonna do another one. The next one I might do is a maybe in October, and that'll be my last one if I do that one.
You mean forever?
No, not forever. I mean, I'm still gonna do like festivals and stuff, but ever and ever and ever. Oh, hey, Storm. Storm Revire.
Hey, Storm, I can't see the chat because I got computer problems.
Foster Clan. Bring up the chat on your phone, ZP.
Oh, see? Fucking millennials, man. They know everything.
Yeah, everything. Everything. I know everything, but am I right about everything? No.
You know everything. This guy.
I know everything, but I'm not right about everything.
Dude, I'll bring up some subjects now.
You know why I can say that? Because the world raised me to say that I know everything, because fake confidence is what I was taught.
Fake confidence?
Yeah, I was taught fake confidence is what you're supposed to have, and I took it seriously. Some people don't, but I took it seriously, so I will say I know everything, but I don't actually know everything.
Are you kidding me? Hold on. Now I gotta try to install it.
I'm gonna know a lot. You should install it. You could just go to your browser, type in twitch.tv/Rise and Mind, and then do the chat there.
Hold on, let me see if I remember what the new password is. This is fucking insane.
Okay.
Wait, I think I got it. But hey, Storm.
Storm of Iron, Foster Clan, welcome in, guys. I appreciate you. I'm sharing in a couple of other Discords, so we might get some other people in here that we don't normally get in here. Trying to get 32 French to watch us, but man, he's busy now. Busy. Oh, here's the people that I was thinking of. You know what I want to talk about today? Something that Storm of Iron brought up a while back.
I'm all technology. See this phone?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Put you beside a Nintendo Advantage controller.
So Storm of Iron and I were talking about mythology and all the different types of fantasy that bridged off from mythology and gave us Lord of the Rings, gave us D&D, gave us so much different stuff got branched off from a lot of the old mythology figures. And what came with mythology was magic and the idea that there were magical things in the world and magical things happening. And then science came along and just destroyed all of it. There's no magic in the world anymore. Science messes with it.
I don't know, dude. When I took biology in college, I thought I was pretty tripped out. I thought that was some magic from my perspective. I was like, dude, there's a little me living in a little.
Hold that thought.
It works like a factory and it floats around.
Hold that thought, CP, because that's where we're gonna break ground.
Let us break ground.
Round, great. Yeah, Storm likes to. The conversation went funny because he knew he was getting under my skin when he said this, that science is the thief of joy, and I'm like, but I like science, I love it. It's not the thief of my joy.
Science is the way neurotypical sociopaths could feel connected to the world.
Whoa. It connects me to the world.
I mean, logic helps, dude. Like, I need a certain amount of blunt things to kind of keep me tethered to reality.
Well, science helps.
So I like science a little bit.
I guess the first thing I want to bring up in breaking ground here is the idea that science actually kind of saved my soul. Like, where religion, you'd think religion would save someone's soul, science actually saved my soul. This is why I want to bring this up in breaking ground, is that I've always thought magic and science were bed buddies. Like, they're straight up just in bed, intertwined, sweaty. No, I'm just kidding. I think that they need each other, is what I'm saying.
Just fully invested.
Like, you can,
inside.
Yeah, you cannot. I feel like you cannot do real science without first thinking that what you're seeing is magic. Because one of the most interesting things you can have happen from an experiment isn't eureka. The most interesting thing you can have happen from an experiment is,
it's urethra.
That's interesting. New from Blammo, urethra. With karate chopping action. Sorry, I don't know. I had way too much.
Weird,
I had way too much caffeine.
The karate chop on that specific zone seems a little odd and unusual. But yeah, looking through a microscope, man, is magical in itself, right?
It feels magical. It does. No, Storm, it doesn't make you a sociopath. Sorry, go ahead, CP.
Storm, I don't really know. I've only seen Storm of Iron a couple times. No, once in real life, right? For a couple days.
You've seen him, yeah. You know of him.
I didn't think he was a sociopath. He laughs. I mean, if you laugh, maybe it's all an illusion. Maybe that's the true magic. Storm of Iron.
Here's we're gonna go to the share screen.
It's a veil. It's a cloak spell.
Rise in Mind share screen coming in hot. All right.
Which I can't see, so because
CP can't see it, so I'm gonna read everything out loud. So in 1962, in his book, Profiles of the Future, an inquiry into the limits of the possible, Science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke formulated his famous 3 laws, of which the third law is best known and most widely cited. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And when Storm said that to me when we were just walking through a convention floor, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Was, well, isn't magic just science we don't understand yet? And, like, science may steal joy, but only for a moment, because the minute you discover something, there's 20 more questions.
Well, what's magic defined as, though?
Good question. Let's define both of these. Magic definition. Magic.
So, yeah, I'm trying to make that correlation.
Magic, the gathering. No, wait, magic. The power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Suddenly, as if by magic, the doors start to open. As an adjective used in magic or working by magic, having or apparently having supernatural powers. A magic moment, wonderful or exciting moment, can be described as magic.
So yeah, some of those later definitions, like a magic moment, or like, whoa, how'd that happen? That's magic. Like that expression,
Yeah.
like you can apply that to science. Like, oh, the way that you got that car to work is magic. Like it was broke down. No, they use science to fix the engine. Speaking of Storm of Iron.
Yeah, I mean that's actually.
I didn't mean to make a car comparison, but yeah, some of those later ones. But I don't think, and I think mysterious is right, because that's like, it is kind of a mystery when you're trying to decode life, and it is a way to break things down, to create kind of an argument or create your own hypothesis by studying. And yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of the language
There's definitely a way. There's a way to connect the language very easily. It's connecting the concepts that gets a little difficult, because a lot of I think it was Charles Dickens was the one he's the one who's like vehemently against religion and magic and astrology, all these things that he wants it to be just hard science. And there actually is a term for hard science where we need the facts, and those are the only things we should be making decisions based on. We should not be making decisions based on anything but the scientific facts that we know. That's how he feels. Oh no, Richard Dawkins. That's the person I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Where's the magic in that?
That's where it does steal. That's where it does become the thief of joy. That's where I leveled with Storm on this conversation topic of like, we probably shouldn't only make decisions based on hard science, because then we do kind of make everything cold and unthinking. Unfeeling. Too much thinking.
Wasn't that the problem too? Like why people are, we were talking about earlier, why people are like arguing and stuff too. It's always like the data concludes, or I use this graph to argue this. You know, a lot of these things are ingrained in, like, not always the most accurate mapping of sorts. You know, when you're breaking down a graph, it could be bias or small percentages and then it's skewed. But regardless, I feel like the division in the argument lays in that. No, this is the way it is. This fact. No, my fact. And then it's like, well, you have two different opposing facts. So how does that work? And then it becomes.
That's the problem with
life-based, like, you know, how it affects you is ultimately where politics and religion butt heads, I think.
When a scientific hypothesis is proven through experiment, that becomes literal fact. But the misunderstanding that comes from a lot of conversations in science is that literal fact can be retested as many times as people want to. And it can be disproven eventually. But until it is disproven, it should be seen as literal fact, because that's how we can make planes actually fly. That's how we can get to space. That's how we know their fuel ratio for the rockets to get to space. You know, that's how we found these truths that make the technology work. But
yeah, it's like Big Dick King of the Mountain, really, if you think about
sometimes.
It's like I'm on the mountain, like my hypothesis, I got the big one.
Yeah.
And then it's like push you down,
Yeah.
push you down. And then someone comes along and they go, mine's better. And then they get to be on the mountain for a while. That's
like,
the way I always saw
if we take that analogy and bring it some like some levity, sometimes there can be multiple people on the mountain and they all agree on the hypothesis, and then there's this one dude shaking his fist at the bottom going, I have a weird theory, and all of them are like, I don't know about that theory. What are you talking about?
No, I love picturing that. I love picturing that. There's like all these like dudes, and they're like hugging on the top of the mountain. They're like, I love you, dude. I love you. I agree with you, man. We're all right together.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's a little pipsqueak down on the bottom. And then all of a sudden, you hear, let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. And he just comes storming up, and he just starts fucking flailing like in a mosh pit, and everybody's falling off the mountain. He's like, yeah, your echo chamber's done.
Oh
I win.
This happened recently, so I have a little. I'm not sure on the actual specifics of this story, but the scientist Richard Green came up with string theory way back in like 2001 or 1999, around that time period, and everyone was like, what? No, that's so wrong. You go back to your cave and keep working on that math. And he did, and he eventually published a paper. And then suddenly everyone who believed in relativistic science through Einstein was like, wait a minute, hold up, this kind of works. And then it started to gain steam, and now it's one of the more accepted hypotheses of how the universe actually works.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about science is I think it's all semantic based to me, like science, religion, magic, all this stuff. Because if you go back and you look at this chain of time, right, what people called things and what people perceived based on their realities, it would make sense back then. Like, oh, this storm is not storm of iron, but like, oh, God hates us because he's flooded us. No, that's just the weather, dude. But some people would still say that, they'd still say, oh, these floods are because we're being punished. Like, some people will still hold on to a religious ideology off the radar, and we've got all this stuff going on. We know how weather works, even to this day. But by that argument, I'm saying, or just timeline, I'm saying like science is the new way of saying magic or God. It's a fancier word. It's fact, but I'm sure it's all gonna be like so debunked. Like once we realize like we can move shit with our mind someday, it's like, well, we moved past this dumb shit. Like, oh yeah, this stuff in the background isn't very fun anymore. I can teleport to fucking Asia right now. Like, biplanes, we didn't need you any Wright brothers down the toilet. I can fly, dude. Oh, like, see what I'm saying? Like, times will change, and we can keep the world afloat, as science says we can't. That's the new revelations. It's all the same kind of narrative. Like, oh, it's coming to an end, but say we go on for thousands of more years, I'm sure it's going to get recontextualized, and they're going to look like, man, those guys in the 20th with science were fucking morons, dude. They had to use computers and harness energy and stuff. They didn't just like beam it back and forth through psionic astral projection, brother.
It's gonna look like, if we saw that science, we'd think that was magic. We'd be like, that's not science, that's magic. These guys are some kind of telepathic gods. They're not human.
But I think some of it, though, is ego. And, sometimes I think a lot of this stuff, like control, people, you were talking about confidence and false confidence. It's like, we all want to think that we have a handle on this world and that we're not going somewhere that's just a dreadful nothing place. I think that's two major points of why I personally started to believe in science more than religion and magic was because of in the 40s, in the 30s and 40s, they would put lead in gasoline a lot. They put a lot of lead in gasoline. And it made gasoline taste sweet because lead is pretty close to sugar
Yeah. And
This Moxie was a no, well, it wasn't a degreaser. Coke was, but this was a tonic of sorts. Probably had Coke in it.
Starstring was responding to what you were saying, saying, "Where are my Professor Xavier powers at?" Neil deGrasse
Keep
Tyson.
working on it, dude. Write that hypothesis.
Just keep-
Go. I can be Professor Xavier, and then you just sit down and you write that hypothesis, and the science will be like, "That's some comic book dumb shit, dude." Like, nope, because
Nope.
it's real life, and
Nope.
I'm Xavier. We'll prove it. Then you gotta
Yeah.
prove it. You gotta start moving shit with your mind.
That's gonna.
You'll get there.
That's gonna distract
get there
me.
someday.
I gotta keep talking about the lead and the gasoline.
Yeah.
So, lead in gasoline. So everyone said it's fine. It's fine. Every gasoline manufacturer said it's fine. Don't worry about it. You used to not be able to breathe in a suburb because of the amount of lead in the air from the gasoline. Like the
Oh, it was in everything.
yeah, and then asbestos, same time period, same companies pushing the stuff. It's cheap, it's easy, it makes the gasoline run smoother. Actually, Storm probably knows more about this than I do, if they're still in the chat. I don't know why, so I'm actually
lead,
researching lead in gasoline. Why?
lead was in paint up until like the 70s, like, and that's why you have to, via the request of the EPA, be certified if you're a house painter. You can paint your own house, but you're supposed to pay the fucking government $600 every 3 years course to be certified. But it's for safety,
So,
you know. Like,
you were talking about power and control. So the reason I'm bringing this stuff up is that they were allowed to use lead and gasoline for so long because they had scientists they were paying to lie to Congress for years. No, these were actual scientists that said, "Yeah, I'll take a huge, I'll take a huge amount of money to come and testify to these committees and lie."
They still do that with pharmaceuticals.
They do. So this is like this is where like the distrust of science started, was because of these corrupt scientists saying, "Yeah, I'll sacrifice my integrity for some money. Why not?"
And die someday anyway. I might as well get that money.
The scientists the scientists that finally got this stuff removed from lead, removed from paint, from gasoline, got the asbestos thing ball rolling. He had to literally go to Antarctica, take samples of the ice to show the top of the ice from when we started using leaded gasoline, and show that there was lead in the ice in Antarctica, in that top layer of ice. And he's like, look, he had to show the sample to Congress and be like, it's here, I found it, I went really far and spent a ton of my own money, got divorced by my wife just to prove to you guys.
Jeez, that's a little bit much.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I need to look it up again. But he
you should be like that guy Edgar, who took all that money for putting the lead paint from the government. Why can't we have anything?
Yeah.
We're gonna fix these problems. We're penniless. We can't afford. Shut up, motherfucker! I'm gonna be somebody. I'm gonna save the fucking world. I just want to be able to pay the rent. I can see that fucking life. Yeah, some people take major hits and they don't do anything for that reason. They lose it all, and he did. He was right. He did something that was good for the world and probably sacrificed his own livelihood of his life.
Here is the actual story, just so I'm not using anecdotal crap. His name was Claire Patterson. His name was Claire Patterson, an Iowa chemist and geochemist at Caltech. He was the scientist who helped remove lead from gasoline. Patterson's 7-year research and testing in the 1950s included studying lead content in the oceans, ice sheets, and a canyon in the Sierra Nevada mountains. He also developed a lead-to-lead dating technique and created a clean room. So I don't know what created a clean room. I'm not sure what that means. But in
What was that?
1965,
Created a what?
it just says created a clean room. I don't think it's trying to say he invented one. That's great. He created a clean room. But you would need that for what you're doing. I don't know why it included that in the article here. But in
Just timeline, I guess. I don't know.
so the discovery portion of this is that in 1965, Patterson published a paper in Archives of Environmental Health that challenged the belief that natural and industrial sources of lead contributed equally to what people ingested. Patterson and M. Matsumoto, that's another scientist he was working with, found that the ocean off southern California was contaminated with lead at the surface, but the contamination disappeared with depth. They concluded that tetraethyl lead, a common gasoline additive, was likely the source. It took him going all the way to the ice sheets, though, for Congress to finally start to listen. Not sure about his wife leaving him, but I know he had. I think what I read was that he had trouble at home because of it.
I hit that on the head. I mean, that
Yeah,
sounds like a genius to write that story.
You played. Japan was the first country to ban it completely. It wasn't until 1986. So we still have to say unleaded, and some of the gas stations still say unleaded.
Yeah, we still probably have lead and stuff, and there's lead paint like in guys' garages. Like some old dude will be like, "Yeah, just put this on my garage." It's like, yeah, right, dude. That's the real shit right there. I mean, thing is, it lasts forever, but at a cost. And you mentioned asbestos. You know that exists everywhere still in houses, and I mean, I think they had to shut down the Maine State Museum because they found out it was just layered with asbestos because it was built during the time where people used that.
Gross.
And so that's a public building. They pull it all apart. And when I was fighting this whole quarry fight, and we won that, PM5 particle dust that could really pollute the tops of these mountains in school, we were bringing that up. We had people from the agencies coming in and being like, well, you know, there's no real proof that that is a thing. So I'm going to argue that. And one example, you know, like we didn't know about asbestos, and you know, my dad got cancer and died because of asbestos. I don't think your fight, man. I was like, what? You just pointed out a thing that we didn't know about that killed your dad, and now we're like, hey, this thing could be really toxic for us. We should be studying this. And then it's like, oh no, it's probably fine. They said that it's about asbestos. And to this day, buddy, you order something on Temu. We've talked about Temu a little bit.
Jesus, yeah.
Dude, somebody bought a house in Australia, like one of those pop-up houses, because we're all looking for different ways to live now, because houses are for the rich. And, so they bought this pop-up house. The bathroom was all full of asbestos. They don't have the same regulations, dude, that we have. So, like, you can still get stuff with chemicals and asbestos because it's in a deregulated area. But it ships out because it ships low, and it's customs don't evaluate it because Temu has a scam. We don't need to get into all that, but it still exists. Today, you can buy a product on the internet. You could be wearing something right now that's an asbestos brick. I don't know what the hell. There's no regulation on this stuff. So, like, brick. Huh?
An asbestos brick.
And it's not the best
situation. Asbestos brick. I don't know. So we're going to go to the deep dive here. I just wanted to tell that story because you're very right about people using science to gain power over others and to gain financial, like get financial gain too. Because lead was very profitable for them as well. It was easy. It was cheap. It made them a lot of money. So they didn't want to.
Before we go into the deep dive, I don't want to get into this subject too much.
Oh, okay.
But just think of something called Scientology, and I don't want to talk about this,
right.
but it is a religion that is forming out of a science. So you're even seeing it now, division in a way that science is becoming kind of a medieval almost version of itself.
Well,
you know.
I thought
it's
I thought Scientology was based on the idea that Ron L. Hubbard predicted that there were lizard aliens that were going to come take the Earth back over, and we need to prepare it for them. I
Well,
thought that's what Scientology was based on.
I don't want to crap on people's religions, but I know his great great grandson and this family changed their name and they fled away from that man because he was a failed, methed out, fucking science fiction writer who figured out how to make a successful living by creating a cult.
Yep.
And that's the history from his family.
Yeah.
And that's the person that I've met, and that's the basis that I have. And I think I don't know a lot of poor people rocking Scientology. Seems like it's a very wealthy thing, and I don't know. But hey, if you believe that, science is cool. Like science-based religion and alien people are cool. Maybe cooler than Jesus in his robe. He's old.
Yeah.
Maybe cooler than the trees, praying to the trees or the sun. Like times change, and I'm not going to say that I have any of the answers, because I don't. I'm a grown-ass man hanging out with a centipede cabinet. Take it or leave it. But I'm just saying, like, I know that there was some unusual things, and I'm very leery of contemporary organizations. I mean, I'm leery of the ones that have existed for 2,000 plus years. But if your religion came out like under 100 years ago or 200 years ago, I don't know, man. I want the hypothesis to show that that's a valid thing that will stand the test of time. But hey, money, dude.
Usually
it comes down to money, control, and order.
Well, especially after... The interesting thing about it is that once these cults gain any sort of notoriety and they start making money, they quickly devolve into just making money, and they no longer really have a lot to stand on anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've heard with things like Scientology. It's basically, didn't you have experienced this? It was like,
yeah,
you got to a point, and then it's like, all right, now you got to work for us, more people in the club.
Yeah,
you've hit your plateau, and I think that's what happens with most religions. Like you can memorize the Bible, right? You can have all the knowledge of it ever, but until then, well, this is as far as much has been revealed to me. I might as well volunteer at vacation, Bible study,
right?
Help with the barbecue. You become kind of an assistant to the faith. It's a social club, but I say that too. But I've created my own ideology that's probably batshit insane based on what I've learned from religions. And I was gonna write it in a story, and it's this fiction. But all I need to really do, if it, start twisting it around, next thing I know, like people are like, oh man, I really like what you had to say, and then it's like, yeah, it's really true, dude. And then you start like getting people to believe it. You could take any. You could create the religion of the Wizard of Oz.
Well, J.R. Strang brought up flat earthers. That is practically a religious cult now, because they did recently try their own experiments, and their experiments proved the Earth was a sphere, and they just tried to bury the video, but it didn't get buried. There's tons of reposts of the video out there where they did they did the really bright flashlight experiment, a flashlight that can be seen for like a couple miles. And they found some of the flattest, most level ground they could. And they said, all right, we should be able to see this flashlight beam. And they tried every way they knew to see if they could see it, and they couldn't, because it was over the horizon. And the only way it could have been over the horizon is if the Earth was a sphere. And they proved themselves wrong. And then they tried to bury the video. And now it's basically anyone that wants to hang on desperately to their little community that they built. I have friends here. I can't say the Earth is a sphere. I have friends here now. I'm going to lose those friends if I say the Earth is a sphere. That's what a lot of it is.
Just go insubordination. Just full defect. Be like, all right, now I'm going to go to the other side, like some kind of double agent. Be like, dude, I've got the inside.
There's no sense of
make new friends.
There's no sense of community on the other side, though. There's no flag to rally around.
Round earthers?
There's no round earthers. There's just like, oh yeah, of course it is. All right, on to other things.
Well, that is okay. This is the argument that I have for things most of the time.
Yeah.
Why I'm so quick and dismissive with things sometimes. Okay, if the world is flat,
yeah,
right? Say you're right. Say we were fucking idiots. It's not round. It's flat. What fucking point does that matter?
Right. Yeah, it's just something to like.
What does it really change from day to day life?
Not a lot.
Like a hypothesis in learning science is different. Like you could cure cancer by that hypothesis. If you figure out that the world is flat, the fuck are you gonna do with that? You're gonna like flip it like a pog or something? You're gonna start shooting it over to the moon and try to? I mean, like, what do? You
know what you do? Someone tried. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh about people dying, but shit. They tried to find the ice wall, the wall of ice that surrounds Earth, the flat Earth.
Were they Game of Thrones?
The wall of ice. They tried to find it, and they ran out of food.
I fought for the North,
and they somehow we lost signal with them. Whoever they were communicating with lost their signal, and they still haven't been found.
Well, that's because there's no fucking signals up there in the ice, dude. That's a fucking dead zone. Well, he's up there like, can you hear me? I might need a chopper back. It's getting really cold. This doesn't work. Man, it must be that flat Earth. I mean, what the hell were you thinking?
And there was some like footage that was like released that said, "Oh, we found the ice wall." It's like you found one of the poles. You traveled so far around the Earth that you eventually reached a point that you couldn't go any farther, and that's the poles.
So what happens, man, when you're on a flat Earth? We're in a box? Is that what it is? That's what...
All right, so the theory is that that we're on a cone-shaped piece of rock, and on the top of that cone-shaped piece of rock, the flat part of the cone, we are just on that flat part, and there's ice wall on the edge of that flat part of the cone. And then above that, what's keeping the sky in is a glass dome. And then the Earth, the sun, and the moon are inside the dome. Are you piecing this together?
We're in a giant planetarium.
That's what the theory is.
Sitting in the auditorium, looking up.
There's another theory that it's just a gigantic disk, and beyond the ice wall is another world. Like there's a world on that ring, and then there's another ice wall, and there's supposedly a third one, and the middle one is Middle Earth. And I'm like, guys, come on.
Oh yeah, the Hollow Earth. Yeah,
guys, come on.
That in King Kong movies. Have you seen that? They put it in like some King Kong movie. I go, this is dumb now. I was like, I just want to see King Thong, and Godzilla to fucking fight, dude, and break cities. I don't want to go into the Hollow Earth.
Yo, I'm King Thong, and this is and here we are featuring
I'm gonna put a little on it. King Thong.
King Thong and K-Zilla, or Swayzilla. What did you say?
Wait, I call it Godswilla.
Godswilla. Here we are with King Thong and Godswilla.
I mean, I think that could be reworked, like, But anyway.
So that's what the theory is that the shape of the Earth is.
What about the stars, dude? I can look on my stupid app on my phone and be like, there's that one, and the other one's through the Earth, but it's gonna come back around.
We can't.
Some kind of chain.
For some reason, that when you go to another part of the disk, the night sky changes. They don't have I haven't heard an explanation for that. It might be somewhere.
You teleport when you get to the side where the ice is. Do you teleport to the other side?
I don't know.
Because what happens if you get in a plane and fly around the globe? You're like, if I go from Maine and I take the long way and I go around past Hawaii, Asia, and land in Europe, and then keep going.
If you tried to pilot that trajectory, you would end up in a completely different country than you intended to. Because you can't go in a straight line because the Earth is a sphere. If you go in a straight line, you won't go where you're actually trying to go. You have to plot on a globe so that the straight line you're taking, if you look down at it, actually looks like a curve. It doesn't look straight, but it is.
But people believed this though, like 500 years ago, right?
People believed it.
Like
so the first concrete evidence was that Columbus did not in fact hit India. He was like, this should be India, but it's not. It's America. We found America. Congratulations, Columbus. Vikings beat him to it. They proved that recently. It was exciting.
Oh yeah, the Vikings were
different subject
right here, man.
Different subject altogether.
Nobody discovered a place that was already like people were living there. That's part of the stupidity of it all. Like he discovered it by accident for the people that he worked for. I mean, he wasn't even English. He was actually there was an Italian guy, Amerigo Vespucci, who I think found it before.
Yeah.
And then Columbus was just like, hey, you're like I don't know. He was like he was hireable or something, and then he accidentally found it.
The thing is that these, like, back to our original subject a little bit with this too, the people that were believing in it, shit, like, you could believe in the entire pantheon of gods, but then on the other end, you were like, oh, here's all this math, and the earth must be round. And this was a Greek dude. Like, this was like hundreds of years before Columbus was like, yeah, the earth is a sphere because of all these numbers. And everyone was like, oh, that's cool. Let's go pray to Zeus about it.
Or were they following astrology?
They're following.
Stars are named after them.
They're following astronomy. The stars are named after them because they discovered they were the original people who named most of them.
All right.
Like they named Scorpio and Zeus and
that predates
Orion's my favorite.
That predates Jesus Christ, dude.
It does.
Like by like thousands of years.
When the Tower of Babylon and the Library of Alexandria got destroyed. The library burnt, the tower fell. Both of them were repositories of knowledge. We lost a lot. And then after that, the bubonic plague killed the majority of Europe. We lost a lot of knowledge there. Most of the Christian faiths in Europe thought, oh shit, we're being very bad, we better pray harder. And a lot of new things were decreed, like you can't study the human body, you can't study the stars, don't study anything because it's evil, you're gonna go to hell. You're gonna go to hell if you study stuff and you learn things. God doesn't want us to know things.
Let's not figure out the science, let's not figure out why the rats are killing us, dude.
So
God doesn't want us to just die.
So we lost the knowledge that the earth was a sphere, and then it didn't come back until around the Columbus time period.
Blows my mind, dude. Like to think, like I see this moon. Hey, shout out, Final Girl. That's our Lapis. Fuck, man. You know, Adrian. Lapis Lupus. She's got a cool business. Anyway, I'm a fucking moron. But so like to say, like these things are round in the sky, man. This is what Earth is. Like what's the significance of under here? You know, like it's just an argument that just seems like, why? You know, some of these things that we argue about, and it's like, oh, people are dumb, I'm gonna turn back history. It's so trolly, dude. It's gotta be a troll.
I always revert back to the fact that there's a lack of community and togetherness in our society, and every little shred you can find of a feeling of being a part of something bigger than yourself will be latched onto very quickly and easily. And that's why the flat earth thing has skyrocketed after the internet became more prevalent, because we lost a lot of the sense of community when people started staring at their phones more. I think it's more social than it is scientific. I'm prepared to go to the next thing if you are.
Yeah, my phone's hiding out over here behind a 35-year-old piece of tech.
Yeah.
So
we're going to go into a deep dive on the idea of what alchemy is, which is sort of bridging these two things together, magic and science together.
Oh. Let us go into deep dive.
Alchemy, potions.
So the first iteration of alchemy was from Egypt.
Was Moxie. It's a tonic that will heal all your wounds. It's a root soda,
The ancient,
but it has cocaine in it.
the ancient Egyptian. You're actually right, J.R. Strang. We say it's a sphere. It's actually an oval because of the spinning. Sorry. Alchemy.
Yeah, at least you're saying it's not flat. That's all that matters.
Egypt. So Egypt was like, hey, let's make stuff. We need a name for it, and they called it Alka or Al.
Dude, wait. Hold on.
Alchema.
Hold on, dude.
What?
You just explained around Earth again. The Egyptians believe the pharaohs, when they would die, their soul, the Ka, would leave their body and it would circle the world and it would come back. And if you had a grand temple, it would find you and reunite and then to heaven.
Yeah.
In ancient Egypt, they were talking about the fucking going around the earth. Okay.
No, you're right, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a ridiculous thing that I don't understand.
Oh.
Flat Earther, come on in. Let's talk about this stuff because I just don't
Alchemy.
understand where you're coming from. Why? But why?
Alchemy.
But why? Everyone can have their fucking opinion. Alchemy
was born in ancient Egypt, where the word chem was used in reference to the fertility of the floodplains around the Nile. Egyptian beliefs in life after death and the mummification procedures they developed probably gave rise to rudimentary chemical knowledge and a goal of immortality. So alchemy was originally invented by the Egyptians to make themselves immortal, is what they were trying to do. And they're essentially the first pharmacists, is what this was. They invented pharmacology. I think that's the term.
You know what else they made?
What?
Beer.
They did invent beer.
Yeah, they loved beer, dude.
So they call it
They
proto.
drink a lot of beer.
Here's where it bridges our gap. Alchemy is best described as a form of proto-science rather than a distinct science of its own right. Although many observations and theories made by alchemists were based on scientific fact, they often explained these in terms of magic or divine intervention. I love it.
Magic. Dude.
I actually love it
All right,
because
so
we're
gonna flash the fuck. What?
There were a lot of people in the medieval times that were trying to cure the bubonic plague with alchemy. They were making people swallow rocks and shit. Like, because they didn't know. They were like, we're gonna try to cure this disease. Let's try anything.
All I could think of was it bloodletting, where they would cut them and let out some of their blood.
That was part of it.
And then they'd rub a frog on their sores and shit too. But the frog could be a trippy frog. You know how some of them make you trip out? So now we're getting into where I'm going with this. Alchemy is just a pharmaceutical company, brother.
I was just saying, yeah.
It's like whether you're rubbing a tripped out frog getting high or you're putting cocaine in a mystery elixir. I think alchemy was just drugs, dude. Like, because it's creating magic.
It is.
If you're tripping balls, you're not sick anymore. I mean, I think alchemy is everywhere. I think those syringes I was talking about that I covered was some fucking alchemy to somebody.
You're right.
Earlier.
You don't need to prove your point any further, CP. You're right.
Man, alchemy, dude. RX. Equals alchemy.
Alchemy X. The new rapper.
Alchemy, yeah, that's my rap name. Alchemy X.
It's a good rap name.
Alchemy RX.
Why did alchemy stop being practiced under that term? So in England, 3 centuries after it was kind of invented, in the Greco-Roman Egyptian period, that's what they call it, it was over concerns that alchemists could thwart the royal monopoly to mint gold and silver coins, because they thought that alchemists could turn regular rocks into gold.
It did. It did, dude. They figured it out. It didn't happen that way. They're like, moo, we're going to turn this rock into gold. They did figure out how to press diamond coal into diamonds. They got that far. But then they realized, hey, man, you know these drugs that we're distracting people with to take them away from their illness? Hey, that's going to make us gold. We're rich.
So,
pharmaceutical companies, one of the most profitable companies
here's a fun
in
thing.
the friggin' world. They turned it into gold, man. They won.
Gives iron ore and take your iron, son. Gives iron
They
ore.
won,
to
dude. They figured out how to make it into something that it wasn't by exploiting people. I don't know. I take medication for my mental health, and it helps, even though it doesn't seem so fucking concrete most of the time.
We're getting into some. So there's a famous anime called Full Metal Alchemist that took a lot of actual alchemy from history and made it a lot more interesting. So I'm finding stuff in my search here that's from that show. I'm going to try to sift through it. I'm sorry if I read something that's actually from the show. I'm doing my best. So apparently there are 3 principles of alchemy. There are 4 elements: earth, fire, air, water. Oh, that's another one from Full Metal Alchemist. God damn it. Okay, hold on.
That's your Bunsen burner, dude.
Yeah. So alchemists were locked up by vindictive rulers who wanted to extract their secrets and wouldn't hesitate to use torture. So apparently actual alchemists were tortured. That's crazy.
Well, marijuana is legal in Maine. I watched my whole life people get locked up for it.
Did those people
it's still not legal in lots of places, and federally it's not. It's just what I'm saying. Like, you live long enough, all the stuff that was so bad and cancelable, and like, or they had electric cars in the night. They scrapped them all. It's like, well, gas was still a profitable thing. Now we have electric cars because we're going to run out of this stuff. But it's
we're still going to run out of that stuff.
We're still going to run out of that stuff, so we're always going to have to come up with new alternatives.
We run out
but yeah, if you're making $1 million off, if you're making a big church, and then people like are doing drugs with the witches, so you're going to be like, yeah, kill them.
Here's another.
That's taking our people away.
Here's another bridge. This is a cool one. The most famous alchemist was Isaac Newton.
Why? Because he ate the fucking apple seed and was like, "This is cyanide, brother."
No, because
I don't know.
Because he was one of the first. He was one of the first scientists who wasn't actually a scientist. He was an alchemist, but he also did the math. So he was one of the first alchemists to turn it into science. Which is kind of cool.
I get what he did.
Yeah.
He was really doing a lot of drugs, and he got hit in the head with an apple, and he found a whole mystical world. I don't even know.
He was also one of the most conflicted scientists because he was a devout Christian, but all of his numbers kept pointing him away from God, and he even took a hiatus from doing science for a while because he thought that he was losing his connection to God. And I was like, that's an interesting thing. The alchemy.
Well, is it really a conflict though? Like it was a social conflict. I think even Catholicism is embracing science in a way that they would, because there are just some things you can't reject and ostracize. Oh yeah, God's got my back, but I'm not going to take medicine to get better. Some religions believe that, and I think it's crazy, but hey. I mean,
well, here's an interesting. This article about Isaac Newton brings up something really cool too, though. There was, oh my god, sorry, it just got deeper. 1 second. Was sorting through. So, Lawrence Principi was sorting through a collection of old chemistry books at the Chemical Heritage Foundation in Philadelphia when he stumbled upon a forgotten manuscript handwritten by Sir Isaac Newton. Any Newton manuscript is of interest, but this one was worth its weight in gold, literally, as Principi, a chemist and historian of science at Johns Hopkins University, recognized immediately. Holding the yellowed manuscript in his hands and studying the scribbled words, he understood that what he was looking at was one of the best kept secrets in the history of science. Today, Newton is revered as the father of modern physics and the inventor of calculus. But in this paper, Newton was describing a recipe for the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance that reputedly could turn base metals like iron and lead into gold. Newton's dabblings in alchemy were well known, but his belief that he had found the closely guarded blueprint for the Philosopher's Stone was an astonishing find. That's cool. that's just cool. I don't even know if this is real. I haven't. This is a website called This Science That
Yeah,
Matters.
I think you were conducting a spell, man. I think I'm cursed
Are
now.
you're cursed because it's the
I'm
Philosopher's
about ready to
Stone.
crawl out of this TV like the Ring and strangle myself.
This
Can you
article
imagine?
is huge. Everyone who's interested in this should read this. It's cool. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's the link.
Right.
Um,
Rat on. Right. I was gonna say right on. Right on. Right. Not on left. Anyway, yeah, no, that's really interesting.
So Newton had found. That's funny. He didn't find the Philosopher's Stone,
We found the prisoner of Azkaban.
but he used all the principles of alchemy to create a red earth rock that he thought was the Philosopher's Stone. Apparently, this is fascinating.
He's like, I couldn't find it, so I'm just gonna make my own.
Well, that's what he was trying to do. He was like, maybe it's something we have to make because we're alchemists. Maybe we have to make this. This
Dude,
article.
I found the stone. It's right here.
This article.
Hey, after all these years.
This article doesn't have sources, so take it with a grain of salt. I hate it when I find articles that are really cool that don't have sources. It's from 2010. It was updated May 3rd. So someone reviewed it. That's cool. That's always good to see. May 3rd of 2023, and it came out in 2010. So someone did review this and change it. Cool. Good job. Good.
Do you use Google Scholar when you look stuff up?
I haven't heard of that, actually. What is Google Scholar?
Yeah, I haven't done it since school, but yeah, there's a different version. I thought it was like just a button that you click where it's peer-reviewed stuff over whatever stuff.
We should be
You can probably just Google Scholar.
We should be using that. it's right here. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I didn't know. Well, because
we should have been using that from the start.
Yeah, because like you can like yeah. When I was in college, like you could use Google as one of your resources in today's age, but you had to use stuff that was like peer reviewed, and that would be the way to find it.
Yeah.
It couldn't be just like Reddit, dude. You couldn't go on Reddit and fucking, oh yeah, the Piaget cycle of maturity ends at 65. No, I don't know.
Dude, Reddit was trying to tell people that they could put glue on their pizza to stop the cheese from falling off.
The cheese is like just dairy glue, I thought.
Oh my god.
Man, why the fuck didn't they? I mean, I thought that's what it was for.
So the deep dive
glue and stuff. You gotta put your glue on glue. What type of cheese? You using too much of a soft cheese? Come on, man.
Here in the mines of Rise and Mind, we are discovering how science and magic can mix, and one of those ways apparently is alchemy. And at some point, it stopped being called alchemy and just started being called science. It's pretty much the same thing. Except alchemy brought a lot of religion and magic into it.
I thought it went to chemistry was where it kind of refined itself.
Well, it was a mixture of chemistry and some religious and magic properties. Like they thought that you could take air, earth, fire, and water and use those properties to change how things were. Like you change one element to another element using fire, air, water. They weren't far off. They were just being too simplistic with it.
That's entropy.
That's everything. It really is. That's what science is.
When you change something into a different state.
If we want to change,
the gas and
yeah, exactly. If you want to change the physical properties of an object, you have to use the fundamental forces of nature. Except they were wrong about what those forces were. That's the only difference.
I mean, were they though? When you want to turn water into a gas, you use fire.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to use electricity. If it's a different type of chemical, you have to So like we learned about the electromagnetic force. We learned about the gravitational force. We learned about how atoms interact with each other. There's so many things we learned over time that sort of proved the alchemists half right. I guess that's a good way to put it. I think.
Yeah.
Hello, Miss Lisa Face.
Hey, sorry I can't see the chat today. Welcome in. Yeah, so alchemy, chemistry, entropy. Hey, they all end in Y. We're putting it all together.
For our subject matter today, I wanted to bring this up because I think that the magic that we think that science ruins is actually already in the science. It's there already. And that's why I love science so much, is because some of it just feels like, how fucking magical is it that we can figure something out using a set of steps, and anyone can do it. It's like it's really like not that difficult to actually practice science and learn cool shit.
I mentioned earlier too, like how it seemed like this kind of segued into today's pharmaceutical companies.
Oh yeah.
And there's also the other side of it, illegal drugs. Now, oh hey Big, what's up? So think about this. We have amazing, renowned, iconic musicians that are now gone. Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, so many different people. I'm not going to go on and on.
Right.
But a lot of these people died before they were even 30, and they had lifetime careers and created stuff that was so magically profound, that impacted people so much, that got into their emotions, that elevated or their souls. But yet, how did they become so profound? Well, maybe it was the insane amount of drugs they were on. So there's a certain amount of alchemy that they were able to transcend spiritually to ascend to a higher level. Of course, it took their life out early, but then it left us with all the remnants, people who might not be that hardcore into or abstain completely from drugs. And then all these squares are just like, hey, man, that was awesome. That person's like a deity, a saint of sorts, an icon. No, it's because they practiced alchemy and did a bunch of transform to a higher plane and brought you a sense of spiritualism because you thought you were finding the Jesus Christ, Kurt Cobain on the cross. It's crazy, dude. Like, it all twists around, and I don't mean to like debunk or try to shut down people's religions and stuff, but it's just a connective chain that seems very apparent when you, and I don't want to say like, oh, people aren't talented, but it's the same idea. Like when we get pissed off, like, you've got a gift from God.
Oh.
Or I worked really hard, or I mainlined a bunch of heroin, but eventually I shot my head because it drove me mad, because I couldn't ever, I don't think those people could be part of this, and they needed to get somewhere else. So that's an interesting kind of thing that I'm thinking about. Like,
we also did touch on the falsified or the corrupt science, and that, I'm glad we figured out the lead thing. I'm glad we eventually figured out the climate change thing, but there's just not enough monetary support to help change that, unfortunately. But we also have mostly figured out health, but the pharmaceutical companies are making it really hard to actually get our health in order because they're benefiting off of our sickness.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's like saying, like, when the bubonic plague happened, we figured this shit out, but hold on.
If penicillin,
you affluent people can only come through,
The best way I can put this into perspective is if penicillin came out during this time period, it would cost $3,000 a bottle because it's so necessary.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
Miss Lisa Face brings up a very good point here. Maybe that's where the magic happens. It's how our brains perceive the natural world, especially the parts of it we haven't been able to really break down or understand through science. That's true. Like, they found out, they saw where the brain actually fires off when you die. They saw a pulse of energy in an area that doesn't normally produce any. And they were like, what was that? And they didn't have time to measure it. They didn't have time to figure out what it was. And everyone was like, and to this day, that study hasn't been really figured out. So it's one of those things. That is where the magic is. It's kind of, the magic can begin where science ends. But I don't want it to be a cop-out either. Like, there's a fine balance there. Like, we can't just say, oh, because magic, when we stop thinking. You can't just stop thinking and then go, oh, I guess it's magic.
That's yeah. I brought this up to his counselor one time. It was so fucking hilarious. Man, he doesn't want to. He hasn't been like this in a while. He's so big now. Anyway, I just want to get down.
Yeah.
I brought up to a counselor. I go, hey, what's the difference between mystical thinking and religion?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a great way to word it.
She didn't really have much of an idea. She's like, yeah, that's a tricky one. It's like, how can you say if I find spirituality, it's better for me, but because more people agree in it, it's okay, and it's community based. Why can't I just get with a bunch of my friends like these flat earther dudes did, and like, yeah, we're gonna just say the world's flat, you know, and it creates a sense of community and something to believe in. Like it doesn't work, and there's a lot of stuff that the new manual, the DSM-5 or whatever, it's just, oh man, that needs to be rewritten. I want to talk about a hypothesis. You know, that there's so much stuff that I see in psychology that needs to be changed, but Miss Lisa understands some things like with science and design. And so for me, my sense of spirit is in the idea that things are designed too well. And that's where I have a sense of whatever you want to call it. You done?
Miss Lisa.
So if things are
asked,
designed well, like we're talking about the science of the human body, right, earlier,
yeah,
or the way that trees continually grow and don't just die after the first year, that science is like what makes me think there's God. Not a man in a cloud, but like some source that it was all created.
that's where.
And sometimes I think alchemy or drugs tap you into that.
I'm glad.
Or just taking a walk out in nature.
I'm glad you brought that up. So,
yeah,
our brain. This actually ties into what Miss Lisa is asking. What is the definition of magic to you? So, to me personally, the definition of magic to me is that our brain is very protective of us perceiving a very specific reality so that we can continue to function. And sometimes when you take certain drugs, you get to like get a peek into what your brain isn't letting you experience for your protection, because you'd go mad if you experienced all of it all the time. But to be able to tap into that is very fascinating, and sometimes it has been transformative. People have gotten over severe psychosis from taking mushrooms, from taking other narcotics, certain things. Some people have like straight up just been completely drunk and had a transformative experience from that, even though it was just alcohol. But like for me, that's where a lot of the magic comes in, is that like I think that there are forces that we cannot perceive. There are forces that make it really hard to measure, and they actually have found some of them already, like neutrinos. Incredibly difficult to measure. We're just a theory.
What did you say, the neutrinos? Those were those guys in Ninja Turtles that rode in the classic cars from Dimension X?
So this
neutrinos?
There's a, well, maybe they took the term from the scientific study, but the neutrinos are this, whenever a star dies, it blasts neutrinos out like super, like faster than the speed of light. It's one of the only things that can travel faster than the speed of light because they don't have any mass. There are millions upon millions of neutrinos flying through your body right now, because they're everywhere. They're throughout the entire universe.
It's a bunch of slick back hair, sunglasses, like dudes in floating Lamborghinis, like, all right, dude, let's go party. Like zipping through my millions of them, dude. Yeah. It's like the Fifth Element crossing over. Blade Runner, chum 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 chum.
Those are
pod racing.
Those are one of the forces that they thought didn't actually exist, and there were theories until we finally measured them. The neutrino detection chamber is this thing that looks like it should be in a wizard's tower. Have you seen this thing?
Just the fact that you said neutrino. What did you say? Neutrino deflection center?
Neutrino detection chamber. So I'm gonna bring up the share screen because this needs to be.
Like where you go to have a drink on Coruscant.
This needs to be seen. Okay, this is the
and fucking Solo. It
looks like it should be in a wizard's tower. So the neutrino detection chamber is fascinating. This is what it looks like. It looks like it's got a ton of these metallic balls. I think they're brass, and they're in this chamber with this pool of water.
Yeah, if you have it, I can actually see the stream sort of in the.
Okay.
So I'll see it eventually. Oh yeah, it's switching over.
So this looks like where a final boss room in a game. Like there should be some magical beast you have to fight in this.
Oh, hey, we're back to magic and science.
Yeah. And
putting it together now.
That's what I love about this, is that in order for us to detect the neutrinos, we had to build this massive room. And there's more. I know in my heart that there must be more fundamental particles in the universe that we just can't measure. Because this one was...
This was what Lucas was coming up with the midichlorians.
I think he was probably digging deep on some of the new scientific principles. Here's the crazy thing about... I think
they started calling it an M count, but who gives a fuck about Star Wars anymore?
Neutrinos do not interact with matter at all, right? It's so hard for them to interact. But the cool thing about neutrinos is that when they do interact with matter, a little static charge goes off.
Why? They don't think it matters?
They just don't think anything matters. They go right through everything. They in this chamber, they turn the lights off, right? And every maybe couple minutes, you'll see a flash of light. And that's a neutrino hitting something in this chamber. You would never
see the floating Cadillac, dude.
You would never
sideswiping shit.
They had to build
this. Look up neutrinos, dude. TMNT. You now you have to see it too.
Okay.
But yeah, you keep talking. You just need to see that image in the chat because I feel like an insane person.
There are these punks. There are these elves.
They're like greaser elf punks from Dimension X driving floating cars.
Oh my god, these are exactly what I was picturing.
I did a good job then explaining it.
Well, even just from the name and how they were being used. Oh my god.
I don't know if that was in the Eastman Laird comics because they had a lot of the Dimension X and otherworldly shit, but they popped up in one of the early cartoons.
Here's one of the comic pages. I don't know if it's the Eastman Laird, but it's good. They're interesting looking. The turtles are fighting them.
Well, yeah, because they kind of were they didn't want to. I think they didn't want to be messed with. They just wanted to let's party, and they work because the turtles didn't know what they were when they first saw them. It was just that.
Dude, I had one of the cars. I had that car.
You did? You didn't even know what it was from?
I didn't even know what it was from. I couldn't remember in this time. I couldn't remember right now. But
probably like a hand-me-down kind of thing that you came across.
Well, there was one that opened up that I had. Oh, that's a cool looking one. That's like something I'd draw.
Yeah, the comic looks like it's maybe a newer thing, but yeah, that's the neutrinos, man.
Cadillac neutrino.
That's interesting because I think trying to detect all the. Wish I could say that's interesting. That's my default. That's fucking cool, dude.
So another thing that they recently discovered that seemed like magic was gravity. They recently proved that gravity is a wave, not a particle. The way they proved that, they built a detector that could detect black holes colliding. And they found one that was about to collide soon, and they built the detector, and then they waited. And then they proved one of Einstein's theories correct. And it
sounds like a VH1
so cool.
show from 2004.
It was so cool.
Collision.
I saw the live broadcast on YouTube of them learning that the theory that gravity is a wave was correct. They learned the proof, and I saw it live, and it was cool. You could feel that energy of oh my god, we know something about the universe that we didn't know before now.
Yeah, energy science is definitely what I find the most fascinating. Well, neuroscience and energy don't really have a huge grasp on either of them. I mean, less neuroscience. yeah, the idea that things are waves, you know, the way that we created technology, it's harnessing these waves. Waves exist regardless in nature. So what do they all mean? And what if there was a way that we didn't need a monitor to capture the wave? What if we capture it? And that's what I find really interesting. So what I was saying, like about flying or this and that,
Yeah.
well, that would be where we'd go when, you know, like if you understand that we're particles and this is, and you touch it, like, aren't I fusing with this remote? Like, aren't our particles just, they're so little kind of dancing with each other, like an ant holding a droplet of water like Jello? It's so small. So with that science, what's to say that I can't move it, like, without proximity through the energy, tap into it, or myself, or my mind, and dream or astral plane. That's all new. You know, people think you're on acid when you then once again
they would
to be enlightened in this day and age and to sound like
actually,
this. They're like, oh, that guy's on drugs, man. So alchemy.
A lot of the times, a lot of the first scientists were locked up because they were like, "There's no, this is preposterous. You go to jail."
Bro, they killed so many of them.
Straight to jail. Galileo starved to death in a jail cell.
Philosophers too, man. Like
I think I'm wrong
Plato,
about that
man.
as well.
They made that motherfucker drink hemlock. That was the thing. They talk about alchemy. They're like, hey, this shit kills you. Well, dead. You're like, so it sucked, man. As much as I say, like, things, at least, like, you can't, at least you have a certain amount of freedom to be like, hey, I think this is, like, we're talking about off with your head. CP, you're too radical for this world. You're not with the status quo. I just think it's all funny because it all just like, it's all like one big orgy to me. It's like you got the science, you got the religion, you got the alchemy.
You're cutting out.
And it just, they're, huh?
You're a bit too loud for your mic there.
So, you know, it seems like this big orgy of stuff where it's like science and alchemy and religion, spirituality. All these things kind of seem like they're just lying around together and they're commingling, and some things seem to be connected, but I feel like they're ultimately, we talk all day around in circles. Like, I think that one in the same, I've always thought everything is the one same. What
I think you're kind of answering.
That's CP's perception of what God is.
You're kind of answering.
When everything converges to one thing.
Miss Lisa's talking point, and you kind of addressed it a little bit there. So I do want to add my own perception on this as well. It's like she asked if an animal is suddenly able to perceive color from being colorblind. So you've seen that, Lisa, already. You've probably seen the videos of a colorblind person suddenly being able to see color, and they usually cry. It's usually overwhelming. So for an animal, they'd probably think they were losing their goddamn mind. They'd probably be like, what is happening? For a person who's colorblind and then suddenly they're given those glasses that allow them to see color, we see that perspective. We see that shift of like, this is what I've been missing. They feel robbed. I know one guy said, I was robbed of this from my genetics, and the world is beautiful, and all I saw until now with these glasses was gray and drab, and it lacked, like, the world lacked saturation for them. And most colorblind people see some color, but the guy in this video I was watching saw almost none. So the shift from seeing almost none to seeing all, damn.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I went to school with a painter who was colorblind, and it was fascinating to watch how she just would interpret things. She could paint color, paint black and white. It was just different because it was just seeing. She had her way of seeing it, but it wasn't the way we saw it.
My art teacher was colorblind, actually.
Fascinating. Oh, really?
Yeah, and I took 7 classes with him, and there were like maybe 2 or 3 times during that time period of taking those classes that he would start painting the sky, and it would be purple, and he'd be like, here we paint the blue sky, and we'd be like, Mr. Fuller, that's purple, and he'd be like, ah, damn it. Because he knew he usually could tell the difference when he's about to do it, and he would correct himself. But Yeah. Sometimes he didn't, and he'd be like, "Ah, damn it!" And he would mess up red. He would mess up reds and browns too. Before
I
we,
can see that.
I want to touch on. I think that might be a breath of fresh air thing. I don't know. Are we ready for the breath of fresh air?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll go into the breath of fresh air. Finish your thought. I want to touch on what Miss Lisa went on to next for breath of fresh air. But what were you saying?
I just think that's interesting because scientifically, this I know, educated in this color and light theory, and I might have brought this up before, but there's different ways that your eye perceives things, color and value, the contrast and white, and then color, that wavelength. And so I could see your professor getting some of those wrong because they're very, and I think one of the hardest things that I ever had to do was take something that's color and then take a picture of it and take a do a black and white painting of something that's in color and
Yeah.
to recontextualize, because it's two different parts of your eye.
Yeah.
That how it's receiving. It is so difficult. And to conclude on kind of how this like also ties into what we're just all podcast, there's an inherent there's a big difference between your mental perception and what you see. And what you see and what your brain, as you were saying, allows you to see, versus if you were on some
can I
substance.
Can I say something that's just so cool that it might break your brain a little, but in a fun way?
Yeah, sure.
So it might seem instantaneous, but it takes the brain some time to deliver you the experience. So nothing is real time. Nothing is in real time. And it's fascinating to me to think that, yeah, it might be a fraction upon a fraction upon a fraction of a second, but it's still some time it takes for the brain to collate the data and give you the experience.
Wow. Because I think I'm so radically dopamine deficient, a lot of times it takes me not only a fraction of a second, sometimes a year.
Sometimes a whole year.
Sometimes it comes back around and then I find the enjoyment of the situation or an epiphany to what I've learned.
That cigarette in CP's hand is burning out completely, and he's been staring at that rock for a full 20 minutes.
That's right.
But no, I think I saw that happen once. But
with the eyes, dude, like, you know, in the brain, you also said like how those signals, you know, they don't really work out all the time, because if you were enlightened, so to speak, and you were seeing things in real time as opposed to thinking about it. I'm someone who's cerebral, and I get in the way of myself all the time, and I have to remind myself, like, get out of your fucking head, dude. There's a tree over there.
It's just a tree.
Look at the tree. What's on the tree? What's the bark? Like, use your eyes, dude, and see it. And that's why drawing has been so important to me, because it allows me to calm my brain, to move it a lot slower, because I'm focusing on something that my eyes and hand are communicating with.
Yeah.
Now, to that point, have you ever seen somebody who draws a observational picture of their friend, you know, across from them, or a model, and you sit there and you draw the person directly in front of you? I don't know if you've got to experience a lot of that. But I noticed something wildly obvious when I was in art school. I could look with my eyes, and I as well. I could measure minute little details and render someone as they look. Now, a lot of these people, their character, I guess I could call it, of the person they're drawing wasn't what they were seeing. They're lying to themselves, and they weren't seeing with their eyes. They weren't seeing in real time. They were allowing on their brain. They were going into their inner space and their brain was saying things like, this is what it looks like. And it was informing them a lot of times with their own face, because that's the face they look at in the mirror all. Or stylistically, if you were into manga, anime, art style, I would see stylistic layers.
Yeah.
And that's the brain. So it shows a clear division in just drawing real things where your eyes and your brain don't always connect. So that's getting into everything we're saying. Like, how much of our spirituality is stopped by our brain and our inner thought, and we're not feeling the energy. We're not being caught up in something that's distracting, something that's nostalgic, that isn't a time that we live in now. And how much are we not to fully experience life until we do a little alchemy and we're all messed up and like, yeah, this is really different because I'm not thinking as people drink on the weekend.
How much are we not allowing us to see? How much are we not allowing ourselves to experience? Like, I mean, like our brain by default doesn't allow us to see everything, but you're right. There might be some things that we are consciously forming pathways that make it so we can't see certain things, and that's called repression, dude.
Yeah. Post-traumatic stress, all that stuff. Digging the same trench over and over becomes the beaten path that's much easier to walk than climbing over something a little bit more arduous and complicated.
We are by the same analogy, we're blasting through mountains and finding gems to form new pathways. And it's hard, but we're finding some great stuff in these mountains.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's my own boredom where I'm like, all right, I feel like I've got enough there, and I move on to the next thing. But I mean, as much as I'm a creature of habit and want to do the same easy walk, I mean, if I don't eventually bust over the top of the mountain and see what's on the other side, I'm not going to be excited to venture forward. Yeah. I'm just going to be bored sitting in a rut.
Okay.
You got to climb, sometimes up, so you can see the sky.
We are going to, exactly.
Take a breath of fresh air.
No, viewers. No. Bad. Stop banning you. No, not allowed. All right. To the breath of fresh air we go.
Take a moment.
It's time for the breath.
It was.
Of fresh air.
I created it about 3 minutes ago, I think.
So, the new form of alchemy, they're calling it spiritual alchemy. They call it spiritual alchemy. This new form of alchemy.
Like yoga?
It's like yoga. It's called manifesting.
You know,
with it. No, like Miss Lee's face brought it up, and I think
that works, dude.
It does, and I want to explain why it works, and it's interesting.
You gotta be real fucking careful with it, though.
You buy a new car, right? So you research the car, you buy it, and you love it, and you're thinking about it. What do you see goddamn everywhere after you buy a car? Your own car, the one you bought. It feels like there's a million of them because now you see it everywhere. And that I feel like that is how manifesting works, is that you just make sure that you know what you want, and you want it so hard, and you think about it, and you research it, and you care about it, and you keep it in the front of your brain long enough that you start to make it happen just by being it, living it. And it's not necessarily magic in the stricter sense, but it feels like magic because suddenly these things are happening to you and you've wanted them forever, and all you had to do was care really hard about those things. It's like The Secret. And then I wish they didn't call it that back when that came out. I really wish they hadn't done like that whole push. The Secret.
I've got a secret.
Yeah. And so the way Miss Lisa Face brought it up is it magic? Is magic more hardcore than that, or is it just the ability to perceive things outside of your typical reality, but to manifest those things? And that's like she calls it level 10, which is that's funny. She used the term that I think you would use. It's calling it a level, like.
She's fucking cool, dude.
Is,
Get with the program, Miss Lisa.
I didn't say she wasn't cool. I just said it's interesting. It's cool to hear your language from another person.
Yeah, when I first met Lisa, we were like separated, like family members. We just like vibed and Born Day. She knows that. She knows Brother Theodore, Uncle Ruben from the Burbs. There goes the goddamn brownie. She knows all that cool shit, man. Like we were connected energy, and that's another thing we can just mention real quick is like we're talking about energy, we're talking about laws of attraction, all this stuff. I think when people get older, they understand themselves or their energy or their vibe. And then it becomes much easier. Excuse me. Goddamn Moxie. I'm a pig. So it becomes much easier to be like, nope, that's a person that I'm going to get along with. Or that's a person that like we could be family. Like how the fuck do we know all this stuff? Nobody, I've never experienced it. So it becomes very like startle, and it's really interesting. And someone like me who's very dopamine to when I find that, it's like, whoa, exciting. So like when we first met, same thing. We just knew we liked each other. I didn't know. I knew like 3 of the people at a party of 20. I don't know how many people were, but I ran into this guy and we followed each other around and just kind of. I don't know what we did.
This actually goes along with what we're talking about, like the manifestation and vibing, and you just know. And like I want to talk about the tent I was next to today at the little thing. I was next to a Republican senator's tent where he was sort of doing some campaigning stuff, right? And
what were you doing for a show that there was like political?
It's just a festival. It's like a block. They called it a block party,
like a park thing.
Yeah, but the point
so
is,
anyone could have. I gotcha.
The point is that the vibe was good. Yeah, I didn't care that it was Republican or not. They were talking about some things I didn't necessarily agree with, but they were good people, you know. And I was like, I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like it would be a bad time. And there was a certain like aura of this is going to be okay. And then there's some people where I'm just out and about, and they'll be wearing a Trump shirt, and it won't even be about the Trump shirt. The person just gives me a bad vibe, you know. Like I don't feel good around that person.
Yeah, there's just a certain disposition that you can feel that is just not your vibe. Like this person's more like in my case, like this person's confrontational and competitive. Yeah. Already I know that by 3 sentences you said. My values aren't with that. So like why? I mean, being anyone's like buddy in the real time and hello neighbor, really fine with me. But there's also the side of like long-term relationships, friendships. You have to know these things. That's why I think that's why a lot of stuff doesn't work out, like because people throw themselves into this. Not that I'm being a relationship counselor, but a lot of people jump the gun, and a lot of that was you know, it gets forced generation. Oh yeah, be like us, and you make a kind of quick decision, and then it just like, oh, I was young, physical. It was this. Oh, opposites surely attract, but like you have to live with someone for a long period of time. It's not like a year. It's not like 2 years. Yeah. You know, like. And people also do change over time. You've seen me back in the day when I was doing videos and stuff. My energy's way different. So like that carries forward.
I want to talk about that a little deeper too. Of like all this stuff that was written down in these texts, and they were like misinterpreted and retranslated and translated again. And here we are thousands of years later, right? And what if the magic we think that they were doing, this witchcraft, this cult like behavior, was actually just a bunch of people sitting around just having a good time, and the way that they had to describe it at the time does not match our language we have now. And it's just the same stuff. What if it's the same stuff? Like the magic they were describing way back when is the same stuff we're starting to discover now, that you can just tell something about a person, and this proof that that gravity is a wave. Like they just figured, they're like, oh, okay, this is probably true, and we'll just we'll put it down in the scroll in this manner, and hopefully future generations will understand us, but it'll get it just got misinterpreted maybe, and this is all just you know speculation,
or just usurped for a different narrative, or
don't get me started.
Took something out of it.
So much usurping.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like a lot of the thing I think of is there was this show where it was like a western town in the 1800s where things were starting to get more and more machined. Like it was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and there was this cowboy and his wife and his and their 20-year-old son, and they were walking up to this salesman, this old-timey salesman, talking about washer and dryer when they were first invented, and he's like, you wouldn't have to do the washing anymore, and then you would have time for other things. And they were like, time for what other things? We don't need that. Like we enjoy our washing, and I was like, it was interesting. Like, how did we get to where we are now, where that's common? Like, just having a washing machine is pretty common. Whereas the
salesmen aren't any different than religious officials.
And you picked up what I was putting down there. Like, the misinterpretations might have been intentional because they wanted to control the way that we lived life, so that
they're just so
they could
fucking
benefit.
Passionate about something that they feel it's their obligation. Like, I have to this crusade of
we're in a
spreading the word or selling electro.
Would you allow me to step on my soapbox for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
I feel like we're in a new dark age. I feel like we entered it in the 80s.
The 80s was cool, dude. It had robots to Johnny Five.
The 80s was the peak. But then we entered the dark age at the end of the 80s. It felt like there was a distinct drop of suddenly we don't care about anything anymore. Money's the only thing we care about.
Dude. That was just grunge music. And that's because of heroin. No.
70s could have been the peak. Yeah, I'm more just putting a concept forth, and that's why I'm calling it a soapbox, because I could be wrong about all this.
No, but the 70s is back, man. This is the 70s now, dude.
I'm not saying that any of this is fact. I'm saying that
I'm not saying anything I ever say is fact, because I'm just a dude and I'm gonna die someday.
I'm saying that I'm on a soapbox, and I'm just saying that I feel like we're in a new dark age, where the dark ages before, the first dark age, was when what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, when basically everyone was terrified of the bubonic plague and thought that we brought it on by our sin, and we basically denounced all science and knowledge and said we're just going to focus on God because, well, we want this plague to go away, and it must be because we're being punished. Now the God that we are worshiping, that's bringing about this new dark age, is money.
I mean, I don't know.
There's more to it than that.
Because currency is like a long stretching thing, and then
well, not money.
The repeat pattern of COVID.
Money itself isn't the problem. Having a currency can be a good thing for a civilization, but when the desire for money,
exploitation, basically.
I think exploitation and glorification too, being rich and having a ton of money, became the most important thing to everybody.
I know I'm a big influencer. You want to be like CP? You want to drink Moxie all day? You want to live in your own arcade? Make that money.
Yeah.
Make that. No, I don't.
If I continue this sort of this thought process again, I'm not trying to say that this is the only way that it is. It's just an interesting thing that I've been thinking about. If you continue down it, you kind of see that it's for the same reason. It was survival. It was like, this plague is killing us. We gotta worship God harder so that he saves us. We think that everyone is suffering. The only way out of suffering is to have more money. and it's like it's for survival. So I actually can't really say that it's a negative thing. I feel like everyone's just trying to survive. We need money to survive now. We've created that system.
He's just like everybody else. He just wants a piece of the fucking pie.
What is that quote from?
So it's from the Righteous Gemstones, which is a show about people making money off religion. Have you ever seen it?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, you cut out again there.
So it's John Goodman was married to this really spiritual woman, and then she died, and he takes over the Gemstone church and family, and his kids are like Danny McBride and Adam Levine, I think. But they're all spoiled babies, spoiled by the religion, and dark stuff from the past, and things that they did that changed things for people, and the impact that they had, and they're good or bad people. But there's a scene when they go back into like the civil rights movement, and it's this dude's son and the guy who's supposed to be young John Goodman, the guy's father in the background, and they're driving through this crowd. It's like civil rights going on. All these black people are banging on the car. And the guy's son in the front seat driving says something, I think racist, and then the dad just goes, leave them alone. He's like, they're just like everybody else. They just want a piece of.
Oh,
I love that line because it's true. It's like that's the fairness, and like people do that. A lot of to do with equality. It's like we all want to survive. We all want to be participants in a good life, that everybody should be equally allowed and people aren't left behind.
So there's another another layer.
Not allowed.
There's another layer to us entering a dark age too that Muster brought up. Is it Must-Her or just Muster? Or a Musther?
Mustard sandwich. I don't know. I can't read it.
Either of those three. Either way, I like the point you brought up, because in the 70s we still had an ounce of the way we lived originally, but augmented with technology. And now technology has pretty much taken over completely, the technocracy, as they put it. 70s could have been the peak, for that reason. I agree that the technology part did bring about a lot of this worshipping of progress, like we're worshipping wealth, because wealth brought the technology, and could be part of it, or they could just be separate entities.
80s wasn't very helpful when you had a dour time. People's country. I mean, it's happening now. You can talk about when you have massive violence being thrust at you from all different areas, and then you had this sense of post-war. This is gonna. Dark shit, we just saw it. Calm down and live a good life. But then, I mean, when it starts going back the other way, and generations born during it, it looks like the world might be hopeless. And we're feeling that, I think, today, that, wow, things are radically changing, and division and it was very impactful with Ronald Reagan fighting against the ideals of Jimmy Carter and materialism. Say, like, no, man, we all gonna get this shot, and it's not materialism. You have to know CP grew up in the arcade by having a whole fucking arcade in the background. Well, in case you're dumb, CP, here it is. I laid it right out there for you. So that started to shift the ideas, and then we got spoon-fed so much sugar and so much crap throughout the 90s growing, and it makes sense. But now, with the economy the way it is, a lot of people are losing, and they just want a piece of the pie. We're seeing things like Temu and stuff being able to rise because it's the haves and the have-nots.
This is one of the ways.
Ebb and flow economically and value.
Well, besides it being an ebb and flow, I just want to bring it home with So the reason I think this is a dark age is because we are losing the magic again. We're like, it's like, it feels like we're yet again having to relearn the magic. Like it feels like the 80s and 90s killed the magic again, and now we're starting to discover it again. And the language is different now, and it sounds like really woo woo, but it's there. We're starting to learn that, oh, you mean taking a walk in the woods and having a nice nutritious meal, like with the view of
nutritious.
Nutritious.
I want a nutritious meal. I like that.
And
I love it. I want to have some nutritious.
It's like, and then you like sit at the top of the mountain and you look down into the valley and you're eating your like au naturel sandwich, and
nutritious.
And you take a deep breath and suddenly you're like, what the fuck? This is amazing. Why do I want any of that other crap? You start to realize, like, why do I don't need any of that, but now because of the systems we built, I have to get off this mountain, go into my car, cause explosions in a tiny canister to move a piston around just to get home. And then that, like, just to get back to my house that's too expensive in my too expensive vehicle, I have to burn gas that's also too expensive. So it's like, it just creates this such a thick line between how I want to feel versus like how I do feel. You know, like, yeah. I'm up there on the top of the mountain and I'm like, this is great. Wouldn't it be awesome if my walk down to the mountain was to a house I built myself and a farm that I tend myself? That would have been nice.
I thought you were going to say a riverbed filled with nudity. I mean, that's where I was going.
That's later on in the day after the bonfire. There's a whole list of things in my head.
I thought the bonfire ended the day.
No, that's just the beginning.
People are in the river after dark, man. Man, your world's scary.
It's not going to be dark. There's going to be torches. Enchanting? No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Hey,
hey,
man, dark ages or not, the internet it could mean all this stuff shuts down. It's killing the world anyway. Maybe it's the problem with this stuff.
See, and that's what I think it kind of brings us full circle a little bit. I really think that's what Storm of Iron was getting at, is that science is the thief of joy. What he was really saying is that disconnection from the natural world equals loss of magic. That's what he was really saying, and I felt that, and it hurt me in the moment. And he said this, and my face like just went completely just dark and sad. And he laughed because he was shocked. He was shocked by how much I was struck by the idea that science is the thief of joy. And I'm like, my brain immediately went, no, it's not. I love science. And then I'm glad we had this conversation, because now we've come to like the actual meaning. And that is a sad realization, that we've come so far from the natural world that we have lost the magic to a degree. But I don't think science is to blame for that.
Well, herein lies the problem of any type of philosophical podcasts in which we're in. We've talked certain things probably in circles. It's hard to figure it out. We usually live your time. That, you know, for me, it was this stuff, looking at an arc, you know, this small little thing, this big monolithic thing. This thing is new, and I don't even know put together. You know how this one was built, whatever. But we do lose a certain amount of magic.
Yeah.
And internalization, and we're at a point in our life.
Yeah.
Well, what does it all mean? What is religion? What is all science?
What is all science?
At the end of the day, I think we're coming up with this conclusion. Like, we can talk around in circles, and it's not a bad thing. But, you know, be careful at the stake, at the expense of losing your own cool vibe, like to where you're shutting off.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just going out, like Matt said, and being outside with.
You're cutting out a little bit, CP again.
I'm turning my fucking head. I'm meandering around.
Oh.
But, you know, so we don't have to figure out all the answers, because most of the people who try to figure out all they did drive themselves crazy. Philosophers executed by government that didn't want the information going. Nietzsche
who was executed?
committed suicide, and he had great ideas. You know, like a lot of that happened too. So don't
That's what
contemplate at your own mental health. So if you find yourself getting too bogged down, you know, go for a walk, man.
Don't get bogging. I honestly, that's a great end to the episode, actually, too. Like, if it's feeling like a lot, just touch grass. I mean, I say that jokingly, but like, it's really that is a solution. Like, if I feel like I'm such a chill gamer when I game, is partly because I touch grass often. Like, I come to the game and I'm able to view it as a.
Did you say grass or?
I did say grass.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. I thought you said something else.
You're trying to make me say something else. I see what you're doing.
No, but I'm right there with you. As far as a breath of fresh air, dude, I'm gonna do the same thing. We talked round and round, and the idea of religion and
that's true.
Is so like holy shit. It's just they're all in bed to machine right now, going around, and what's real and what's fake. You can really give yourself a headache over that. I mean, I'm gonna pop right up off to this podcast. I'm gonna walk right outside and go look at my little plants outside, maybe water a plant, maybe walk in the woods a little.
I'm gonna have a taco.
Enjoy the rest of the day, man, and not think about this shit. Maybe I'll play a game Centipede, you know, like, you know, just take it. Don't go 110 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With your ideas, and you know, you rise in mind, but the
can of Jesus.
Who did that? Can of Jesus?
Well, Muster said I'm a can of Jesus. With that though, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We can figure out a raid target. I think you're right. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta get grounded, fool, as Miss Lisa says. That doesn't always mean touching grass or going outside. Everyone has their own thing. I actually read a book. Opened a book, an actual paper book, and read it. I haven't done that in a long time. I have all these books. I have tons of books I haven't read yet. And I was at work, and I had this book my mom gave me to try. And I was like, oh yeah, I like this feeling. I'd forgotten what reading a physical paper book actually felt like.
I love it, dude.
And it was good. And I was like, oh shit.
It feels so good. It smells. It can be anywhere with you. It gets worn. I mean, my Stephen King's The It book that I have has little on like page 80 something has these bite claw marks. That's from little tiny bagel bite jumping up and biting the shit out of my book when he was a little baby kitten. And you can't beat that. My phone doesn't have those kind of artifact like wear and tears. It makes it special.
Very
and it
true.
makes it feel like it's mine, you know, and it's not connected to some giant hub somewhere farming data to send me, you like this Stephen King book? Check out this Stephen King. Check out this Stephen King miniseries. Buy it on Blu-ray. Buy it too. Subscribe to HBO so you can watch the new show with Pennywise. You like Bill Skarsgård? He's going to be Nosferatu.
Whoa. He's going to be Nosferatu.
Yeah, the homeboy who did Batman, Edgelord. Sorry, Robert Eggers, I think. He did the newest Batman. Nosferatu, which is based on I think it's 1933, like German Expressionism film.
Yeah.
F. Murnau's film starring Max Schreck as Nosferatu the Vampire. Later, it was made into a movie with John directing the movie in Germany, and Nosferatu, played by Willem Dafoe, is actually a real vampire, and they play with that. And now Nosferatu,
absolutely,
and Bill Skarsgård is going to be Nosferatu.
Absolutely,
in a German expressionist style. This has been Mike Machida from Mike Machines. Yeah,
I think you're very right about that, CP, though.
Human computer.
So I'm just trying to find a podcast to raid.
That's why I might get a little gainabus, you know? Gotta shut this fucker off.
We want to raid a podcast
I don't
the
particularly
call
care
dumb.
because like I don't think I can interact with it because
is-
my mouse is broken and I'm like really shoestring budgeting this whole podcast, so
Okay.
I won't be able to really interact. So whoever you raid,
Oh, that's right.
that's up to you, brother.
Okay. We're gonna raid dumb television. It's called the channel. It's called
Raid these things. They
Dumb-
don't even have like follower, friend, blah blah blah, and he's winging it.
Yeah, this one is a follower or subscriber only chat. Mecha Christ be with you all. Muster, if you want to hang out for the next episode of Rise in Mind, we're going to try to do this again on Saturday morning. We're going to try for morning.
Yeah, I think we might actually back to our time. I don't have the witch dance practice. Speaking of alchemy and science, I'm doing my that has been transformed into a witch dance
witch
where
dance
I get to
practice.
dance with a bunch of people on the street.
Our
We
Lord,
do a line dance.
Mecha Christ be with you.
I can do the fucking
Our
Cotton Eye Joe
Lord,
now.
our Lord in metal. Bam, 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 bam. Drop the link on Elderworm again. Sure. I don't know if you're following though, Muster. That's why I wanted to mention, like, if you want to give us a follow, you'll see it pop up. But I'll drop the link again as well. I'm gonna try to remember. I've realized that my streams haven't been doing well, and I forgot that I need to post in Discords because Discord is terrible at informing people of stuff. You have to just blast it
They're
with
fine.
things.
We're just all over the place. If you don't catch us here, catch us on the Spotify, iTunes,
We are.
Apple
Yes,
Music, whatever the fuck it
that's
is.
right.
And
We
we're
are on
we're
all
on
the things. All right, we're
This is
about
the
to raid.
interactive portion.
Seconds. 10 seconds. Thank you,
Catch us
everybody.
on Instagram.
This has been Rise in
Catch us
Mind.
on YouTube. Bye.
Be well.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
We rated. We rated.
Bye.
So it is
Bye.
follower only chat. So if we want to chat, we'll have to follow. But that's fine. It's just old timey show.
Do sweaters cause sweat?
Oh, dude, some of this old timey stuff's so cringe. I love it.
It's almost dark.
It'll be yesterday.
I was watching old burger things from back in the day, and it was like they literally would have
That's good to me.
like get on the car and dance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it made you nervous.
Holy shit.
Holy Nike.